Ryan has a great, excellent amateur background. He was a 12-time champion, 15-time champion, nationals. And, he has the hand speed, he has the punching power. He's a good fighter to beat everybody except the elite. He proved it against Tank Davis when he fought that fight with Tank Davis. I knew that Tank was going to beat him and was going to stop him. And Tank showed that he was levels above Ryan Garcia. And that's exactly what Devin Haney is going to do. Devin Haney, great jab, excellent body puncher. This guy is a very good, skillful boxer. And he's a little bit stronger at 140. You saw when he dropped Regis Prograis and everything. He has pop. So I believe that it's going to be a good fight. Ryan has, that whole thing that went saying that he had the hydration clause and everything. And that's the reason why he lost. All those excuses that he came up with. Well, he has no hydration clause in this fight. He's going to be at full capacity, 140. He's going to be big. He's probably going to be a welterweight when he steps into the ring against Devin Haney. Haney might be like a junior middleweight when he steps in the ring. But these guys are evenly matched as far as size-wise. And I believe that the skill level of Haney is better than Ryan. And I see Ryan, losing probably by stoppage late. You probably get beat up down the road and everything like that. I think this whole thing is an act. He has a huge following in social media. I think 8 million people follow him. And even though he's claimed mental health and everything, I know mental health is real out there. One thing Steven Espinosa of the former head of Showtime, he said one thing. He goes, I know the people around Ryan. He goes, I know them very well. And they wouldn't put him in jeopardy, if they didn't feel like he was, not ready to be in this fight. So that leads me to believe that this is all to try to draw attention to this fight and to see people, see him make it to the fight, and then ticket sales will pick up by the time fight week comes. I think a lot of people are going to buy last minute tickets, and then the pay-per-view I think is going to do very well, so I think what Steven Espinosa said was correct. Derek James is a highly, trainer out there, trainer of the year. He's not going to let his fighter go out there if he's not prepared. He's going to pull out of the fight. I don't care how much money is involved and everything. These guys like Oscar De La Hoya and all of them, I don't think they're going to send Ryan out there to get knocked out and not be in the right state of mind. So I believe he's training hard. I believe he's focused. But I think a lot of this is just antics so that he can bring attention towards this fight.
Wow. I mean, yeah, and it very well could be. I mean, but if he's doing it to draw attention to the fight, first of all, that's bizarre to me, because this fight doesn't really need that type of attention. It's going to sell. I believe that it's going to sell. There's one thing I can tell you about Ryan, and I agree with everything you say, by the way. Well,
sell more.
It's a bizarre way.
Remember, we're living in the Jake Paul era. The Jake Paul era. You know what I mean? We're living in the Misfits era with KIS, KSI, whatever his name is. We're living in that era. So a lot of the traditional boxing sell, like as a fight fan, they're trying to go outside the scope of hardcore boxing fans. They're trying to sell more.
Interesting. Very, very interesting take. Well, let me tell you something. If that's what's happening, he got me fooled, because he looks lost, like totally unstable. But listen, at the end of the day, like I said, I'll stick by it. I didn't think that this was needed. I thought this fight was going to sell from the get-go, because obviously Haney is one of the best fighters in the world, pound for pound, and Ryan Garcia, he sells fights. He has a huge following. I agree with you. He's a good fighter that will probably not be able to beat the elite guys, at least not yet. I give him credit, though, and I know this is something that you brought 100%. Up on your channel, right? Because at least he's fighting the elite guys. I mean, he was calling out Tank Davis for years. And then it kind of opened the doors. There were a couple of other big fights that happened after that. So it was almost like the trendsetter. You brought up a good point in your channel the other day, the question that you asked. If he does end up fighting, obviously, if he does end up fighting Haney, whether it's win or lose, he fought Tank. If he fights Shakur and he fights Teofimo Lopez, those are the names that he has said that he wants to fight. before his career is over. In fact, he also said he wants a rematch with Tank with no dehydration clauses. Do you give him credit for at least stepping up to the plate and wanting to fight the big guys, whether he wins or loses?
Listen, of course, you know what I mean? That this is what it's about. You know, there's a lot of people nowadays in any sport, whether it's basketball, LeBron James, or boxing, you know, very critical times that we live in. You know, people judge so much in this world that we live in right now. And if you look at the history of Muhammad Ali taking losses, Sugar Ray Leonard taking losses, somebody the other day was making a comment about the great Roberto Duran, that he lost basically his biggest fights. You know, he lost against Marvin Hagler. He quit against Sugar Ray Leonard, and he got stopped and knocked out cold by Tommy Hearns, you know, and they trashed him. A great legend like that, they trashed, you know what I mean? So these are the times that we're living in. So, you know, like I said, Ryan is good, and he can become a world champion, you know, against someone else. You know, he could probably beat a Kambosos. You know, he could probably, you know, win against, you know, someone else that's 140, somebody like Rolly. You know, those guys he could beat and become world champions and have a nice career. But when it comes to the elite, guys like Oscar De La Hoya didn't win his biggest fights. You know, whether we want to admit it or not, you know, he did beat Trinidad, but Trinidad was the one that got the victory. You know, in our eyes, we felt that, you know, De La Hoya threw away the fight, but Trinidad got the victory. He got stopped by Bernard Hopkins. He lost twice to Sugar Shane Mosley. You know, so these fights, he lost to Floyd Mayweather. Pacquiao destroyed him. So he lost his biggest fights of his career, but he still had a great career. And the one thing that everyone gives Oscar De La Hoya credit for, he ducked no one. He fought everyone. So Ryan Garcia can have the same type of career where he becomes a world champion. He beats a couple of good fighters, but he doesn't win against the elite fighters.